Good morning, and welcome to another inspiring episode of the Good Morning Minute, where we start the day with purpose, passion, and a little bit of power. I'm your host, Angelina Mojica, and today's conversation is part of a special series in partnership with the Empower Her Steps virtual conference, a movement rooted in helping women rise, heal, and walk boldly into the life God has designed for them. Our mission is simple yet powerful, empowering life purpose, because we believe that when a woman finds clarity in her calling, everything changes for her family, her community, and the generations to come. So, friends, grab your coffee, take a deep breath, and get ready to be uplifted as we step into real stories, hard lessons, and bold steps towards purpose with our incredible guest. And our guest today is Dr. LaShawn. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good morning. Good morning to all the listeners. Thank you, Angelina, for the opportunity to spend a few moments with you on today.
Absolutely. I'm so excited to get to know you better through our conversation today. But before we do so, why don't you just take a moment to introduce yourself to our listeners?
Okay, so again, Dr. LaShawn here, also known, branded as the Global Strategist. And listen, this is the famous question that I get all the time. And so I'm simple. I'm just a woman who has survived deep pain. I've walked through the fire. I've come out with my purpose, and I'm a mother, a leader, a truth teller, I like to say, and a builder of women. I'm the global strategist. So that's not just a brand, but it's my calling. Simply, I'm not perfect, but I'm whole. And I'm not who I used to be, but I thank God for every part of my story.
Absolutely. Well, Dr. LaShawn, let's get started. But before we do so, I want to start just with a little icebreaker question. My question to you today is, what's one small thing that makes you smile?
Ooh, one small thing that makes me smile. Well, that's one thing. Well, okay. I'm trying to limit, like, what could that be? That's a good, I think for me is one thing that makes me smile is seeing women who have these aha moments, if you will.
Mhm.
So like those quiet shifts when they realize they're stronger than what they thought, worthy of rest, or finally free from something that used to break them. So when I'm out speaking to people, meeting people, or whether it's a text from a client or just anything, those moments of thank you, or those moments of something that's resonated with them, that's that feel good that I get to know that, okay, I've been able to just reach and touch a life.
Wonderful. Well, all right. Well, let's get into the heart of our conversation today. And I'm going to ask you, what was the defining moment of pain or challenge in your life, and how did it impact you?
Um, let's see. Oftentimes we are moving through life. We've got so much going on, and we don't really know that we are operating in this point of pain. So the defining moment for
Mhm.
me of pain is when I realized I lost myself completely. I was successful on the outside, holding titles, leading people, like I was saying earlier, showing up strong for everyone except myself, but I was completely empty on the inside, and I could feel this emptiness. I was exhausted, from pretending, emotionally drained from giving all the time, and just silently battling these wounds that
Mhm.
I had never named or had never shared with anyone. And so one night when I was, sitting along, I was surrounded by tears, and I could actually feel this emptiness. And I heard this whisper that, from God, you can't heal what you keep hiding, right? And so I knew from that moment that it broke me, but it also woke me up. And it was a moment that, I stopped performing, and I really said, LaShawn, it's time to heal. It is really time to start healing. And of course, that foundation, that pain became my foundation for me to be able to walk and live my purpose.
Mm. And I appreciate you saying that, because there's so many of us out there that are masking
Yeah.
the pain. And I can honestly say I hit a rock bottom moment when my daughter was going through some stuff, and I realized that was the pivoting moment that the Lord shook me up and said, you know what? You're trying to help somebody, but you haven't even healed
It-
from it. And so that's why it's conflicting, because you don't even know
yeah.
how to tap into that, because you have yet to tap into it for yourself. So I appreciate that you're being honest and transparent in that as well. So when did it become like the awareness of, you know what, there's a purpose behind all of this?
Thank you for, sharing what you shared,
Mm-hmm.
because you're right. Even I've experienced, some things that my daughter was going through, and that was one of those moments too that contributed to, kind of facing some of the challenges that I was having because of the truth that she was living in. But to answer your question, it became an awareness. Um, of my purpose when I realized I wasn't the only one that was suffering in silence, if that makes sense. As I started telling bits and pieces of my story, whether through, mentoring or conversations that I was having with other women in the communities that I belonged in, different organizations, or journaling, I saw women would lean in or they would be like, yeah, that's me too. I'm going through this. And
Mm-hmm.
that's when it clicked that it wasn't just my pain, but it was more of, I looked at it as an assignment. So God didn't allow me to survive all, of that just to kind of move on quietly, but there was a purpose on the other side of every betrayal that I had experienced in that season, every breakdown in the silent battles that I was having in my health. And I wasn't just meant to heal, if you will, I was meant to help others do the same. So that moment of awareness turned my healing into that purpose, into that mission. And, that's when the diva herself, this person who was walking in this brand, was born. And it wasn't just a book, but it was a movement. And it was just, okay, there's purpose. There are people who are waiting to hear your voice and for you to
Mm-hmm.
share your story.
And I love that you're using the word movement because it very much is.
It's,
I didn't come to that realization until just here recently, but it is a movement. When we share our story, we are moving in the spirit, in the light, shifting the things that were meant to break us.
yes.
But actually, and you said it well when you said it became my platform. That's what I stand on because I'm not broken. I am, I am able to overcome, step onto this platform and help others get there too. So I love that you're sharing that. So let's talk about it. So it's impacting your health. It's impacting probably some of the identity that you're used to because you talked about being a powerhouse of a woman, titles and things like that. So a lot of these things are probably changing for you and just the understanding of it. So help walk us through that growth season.
That growth season, I know we're always so anxious to kind of get to where we need to
Mhm,
be.
mhm,
And it's like we have to hurry up and heal. We have to hurry up and get there. But that season of pain, like I said, it impacted me every way, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and even physically. And
mhm,
so, walking into that growth season in the beginning, I was drained. I was disoriented and I was disconnected from myself. But the same season became the soil of my growth. And how, like I said, it didn't happen overnight, but it looked like I had to unlearn old habits. I had to change things. Like I'm used to doing things this way. So I had to look at, is it bringing me peace? Is it allowing me to rest? Is it whatever that might be? I had to break toxic cycles. I had to go to therapy, like sitting in therapy and really realizing, hey, LaShawn, there's nothing wrong with going to therapy, getting back into my word, reading scriptures, declaring, turning scriptures into declarations. I have these post-its on the wall, reminders of that journey and really rediscovering the sound of my voice, not the one
mhm,
that was shaped by expectations, but the one that was shaped by truth, if you will. So growth,
mhm,
it looked like grieving in the beginning, what I lost, because you lose so many things. You're shedding things, your
mhm,
friendships, things that you should not be attached to, whatever that is. And then honoring what I survived. So yeah, I shed it, I'm grieving it, but I need to honor, hey, this taught you how to get here. This taught you, this molded you. But then building this new version of me from the inside out. I stopped striving and I started healing. I stopped performing, if you will, because that's what we
mhm,
do. And I started becoming this woman that I'm supposed to be walking in purpose. Of course, it was painful. It was sacred, but it was painful. But that
mhm,
season grew my discernment wholly and it deepened my faith, obviously, and it redefined my purpose. And so
mhm,
it wasn't something that happened overnight, but it shifted and it took time. And I evolved.
mhm. I appreciate you being so honest and saying, I also honored this think this part of me that I'm outgrowing, that I'm evolving from, because so many of us want to hide that away. And I think you kind of said that in the beginning. We try to push it aside, like this, no, that's nothing to do with what I am, trying to strive for today. We don't bring that up. It stays in the closet. But it's so free when you can embrace that and say, you know what? Yes, this
Yeah.
happened to me. Yes, I did
Yeah.
experience this situation, or yes, I made these choices, and you know what? They weren't the best choices in life, but I did learn from them. I did grow from them.
Yeah.
And it's now given me an understanding of direction, an understanding of purpose, an understanding of what I need to do next. I love that because we're not held captive, but we're
Yeah.
actually free from it. We own the story, we accept our responsibility from what decisions we made based on that story, and we move on and we start shining our light so that others can shine theirs. So I love that you're mentioning that. So
Okay.
yeah, talk to us about the freeing moment of it, like how it shaped who you are today.
You know, um, I don't forget that time.
Mhm.
I will never forget the things that I went through because I think it also, you broke that down so well. But one piece is humbling as to where you've been so that you understand when you're put on a platform, you're speaking to women or you're on a podcast and someone's listening,
Mhm.
you remember those moments because you can be honest and transparent. And the freeing moment for me came, when I finally stopped asking permission to heal, prioritizing the needs that I had, worrying about LaShawn and making sure LaShawn's first. If LaShawn needs to say no, stay out of this space. Those were freeing moments to me. I had spent so many years tied, going into that, to the performance of strength, right? Like, oh, I'm good. I'm here. I'm fine.
Mhm.
I'm doing this, I'm leading, I'm giving, like I said earlier, but deep down, I didn't feel this wholeness. And so I was trying to earn love, from relationships, whether platonic, romantic, approval, and even rest. And then one day I looked in the mirror and I was just like, you don't have to perform to be enough. You don't have to perform to fit in. So that moment for me changed everything. I released the need to be perfect because we as women, it's like everything's got to be perfect. We got to move perfectly. We got to do this perfectly. Things have to come out perfectly.
Mhm.
I let go of all the guilt I was carrying of the things that happened to me over the years, feeling like it's my fault. And I gave myself the grace, like I said earlier, to evolve. That's when I started, walking in truth. It's more important to say, I'm a survivor of this. Yes, I went through this. Yes, this happened. But it's owning it and saying,
Mhm.
hey, that's the thing of the past. This is where I'm at. And so that's when I started becoming this woman who is more bolder, more honest, transparent, healed, and walking in purpose without apology. I can't apologize for things that I've gone through. All I can do is say, hey, this happened. This is what I learned. This is the journey I had to get out of it. Hopefully you
Mhm.
don't have to experience that. But that for me was a freeing moment to just really walk forward in knowing it's okay to let all these things that have happened in the past to go.
Mm, I like that. And it's so empowering. And so, a couple of years ago, I had a young lady, a young mother, and she
Mhm.
was in her 20s, and she was experiencing some strife in regards to having to attend parenting classes, and her caseworker wanted her to attend women's empowerment, and she was like, you know what? I don't know why I need to take this class because I'm not getting beat up in a relationship. This is silly. And I said, girl. I was like, oh, girl.
Right.
Women's empowerment is not just about coming out of toxic relationships.
Right. It's not.
It's about owning and understanding who you are to your fullest potential and capacity so that you don't rely on others to make decisions and then you don't fall in situations like this again. That's when I started working with women in my nonprofit. But you're talking about that right now. You're talking about being able to step into this empowering self
Yeah.
under grace, under the power of God, just an anointing of spirit to ignite other, yeah, like let's talk about that. Let's talk about it a little bit more.
You know, you mentioned having a nonprofit for women, right? I think
Mhm.
that's always been a passion for me. Helping women, I could think back to years in my teenage years, just even volunteering to help incarcerated women
Mhm.
learn to read, right? And just all the different businesses that I've had over the years have always been some form of helping women. So empowerment for women, I have this hindsight that it looks like freedom, right? So
Mhm.
it's freedom to use your voice, freedom to use your talents, honor your truth, and take up this space, if you will, without shrinking. So it's women. I was always attracted to helping women to know that they don't have to be perfect to be powerful. So it was kind of like once I got out of this space of healing and going through this journey and really being able to come out and speak on these platforms and really share my testimony and really empower women. I realized it was a healing from, you know, once I went through it, it was a healing from of what hurt them that I needed to speak to. And I needed
Mhm.
to target that, how to lead with authenticity and how to build these lives that reflect who they really are. So, yeah, you may have gone to jail, or you may have, gone through a divorce, or your children, you may have lost custody, all kinds of things. But
Mhm.
it doesn't determine what the outcome that God has for you and what your path and what your journey is. And so
Mhm.
for me, I set foot on how to target and how to offer services, programs, conferences, whatever it is I was doing in the moment to really help women to walk in this space of healing and empowerment. So I use that as an opportunity to say, hey, I need to speak to access. I need to speak to opportunity. I need to speak to what's important about building a community. I need to speak to her confidence. And it's mentorship, right? And so, then mentorship opens the door for representation and for resources, how to access certain things so that you can move on from whatever it is that you're dealing with. But most of all, it's reminding these women that I've had an opportunity to meet or connect with over the years that they already have what they need that's inside of them.
Mhm.
It just needs to be unlocked. And I realized as I looked at my own journey, I looked back, I would have been like, I would never be doing podcasts. I would never be speaking about testimonies. I would never have written a book. I'd never be speaking at a conference or, volunteering to go speak at women retreats or whatever it may
Mhm.
be, because I didn't know that there was something in me that needed to be unlocked. And when people saw that in me and they prophetically spoke those things to me years ago, I was
Mhm.
just like, not me. No, that ain't my calling. But I believe that part of my assignment, someone else was appointed to turn that key to unlock.
Mhm.
And now I'm responsible for this next generation of women to do whatever I can to help them unlock the key. And it's just a cycle that
Mhm.
continues because someone before me went through these things, obviously, or they went through this journey to find their purpose. And I believe for me, that's why I'm in love with this empowerment and how to speak to that woman in that body that I'm sitting in
Mhm.
front of or standing in front of to help unlock, like I said, her access, her opportunity, her community, and her confidence.
Mm. And you're saying these things, and the thing that comes to mind is you're breaking shackles from shame and guilt, because
Absolutely.
that's what keeps us from sharing our story, right? That's what holds us back and saying, you know what, that stays in the closet. It's the
Yep.
shame and the guilt. And so when you're talking, and I feel it within you, like you're speaking to that very essence of that person. You're looking. I was having a conversation with my daughter at one point, and she was talking about feeling sick and stuff. And I looked at her and I said, "Oh, is there are you struggling with something that you should be saying? What's going on?" Because she was having some throat issues, and she's like, "Mom, stop looking at me. It's like you're piercing into my soul." And I said, but you have that gift when you start really tuning in and working one on one with women. Um,
Absolutely.
but even when you're standing on your platform, you're still talking to the core of those women, and you're talking to the struggle. You're talking because you've been there,
Yeah.
understand it, you relate. Wow, that's amazing. So with working with people and working with women, in particular, when you find a person that is stuck in that mindset of in between, like they're struggling, they're at that place of questioning, what is it all for? Why me? Life's against me, all these things. What advice do you give that person?
It's interesting. I just had this conversation with someone just the other day, and sometimes it's not always these bells and whistles. You show
Mm-mm,
up at a conference and you speak and everybody just falls out and they
mm-mm,
walk home and they're walking in their purpose. It's never that. I I to speak to that situation, to speak to that person, that woman, it's repeatedly helping them know that you're not broken, you're becoming. When we walk in for purpose, becoming isn't overnight. It's not a week. It's not a month. It's not a couple of months. Becoming is forever because we're never going to become fully who we should be until our purpose is served, right? And what I mean by that is feeling stuck, doesn't mean you're failing because when we first realize we're going through some things, people shut down. They think, oh my God, I can't, live in my calling. I can't do this. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. But it means that you're in transition. And that space in between who you were and who you're becoming is uncomfortable. That's
mm-hmm,
really what it is, but it's necessary. This person that you're becoming that person for the rest of your life. The challenges that we deal with at age 30 are going to be different than what we deal with at age 40. When we get
mm-hmm,
to age 50, we're going to have a same kind of transition. There's going to be just different issues. So my advice to women is always to start small. Purpose doesn't always begin with this big leap. Like, oh my gosh, I figured it out. And it begins with just one honest step. I'm going through this. I've got to deal with these issues, or I've got to deal with shame, like you said, guilt, hurt,
mm-hmm,
abandonment, divorce, whatever it may be. One boundary at a time, one prayer, one focus area, one journal entry, one moment of truth, one scripture that's going to speak
mm-hmm,
to whatever it is. And I always say, ask yourself, what am I afraid of?
mm-hmm,
When I target this, what am I afraid of if I come out of this? So if I'm dealing with guilt and shame, what am I so afraid with when it gets on the other side? What is that? Then
mm-hmm,
give yourself permission to move anyway. Like, okay, I'm afraid that if I get over guilt and shame, I'm going to love again. Okay, you're going to love again, but you're going to pray that God sends you the right person to love in that next season. Even if it's messy, even if it's slow, but you're walking this path of becoming this woman, becoming this wife that God has called you to be. And finally, another area is I would tell a woman, surround yourself with people who remind you who you are, right? Not who
mm-hmm,
you were. You want
right.
to know who you are. Who are you
Mm-hmm,
becoming? Purpose isn't something you have to chase, right? It's something you uncover after you peel back the layers. And it's already in you, of course. It's like a banana. You just got to peel the layers to
mm-hmm,
get to that purpose, to that place that you're supposed to be in. And sometimes you just need help dusting it off. And so building this community with other women, they're speaking to your target areas. They're speaking to areas to help push you along and your accountability. That's like the
mm-hmm,
best part of becoming is finding people who are on similar paths and they're targeting some of the same areas, but accountable, encouragement, and all those different things that come with that.
mm-hmm. I like that. And I think I had another guest because it prompts this memory of another guest on the show saying you are your purpose.
Oh yeah.
And going back to, having hit a moment of rock bottom, or, just a challenging moment, and realizing, like, you know what, there's some things that I needed to resolve, I needed to heal within myself before I could step in and help someone else. That's the purpose right there. And you discover it, because you talk about discover, it's uncovered. So you do discover it in those moments, like, oh, okay. Because it's when you allow yourself to be truthful, because you talk about truth,
Yeah.
truthful and walking, and accepting your story and understanding and owning it, you release yourself from all of the facade of perfection, the facade of, the hustle, and, just, all these things that you're trying to accumulate to say that you're worthy. You're already worthy, ladies. You are already worthy. Like, the truth does set you free. It really does. it unlocks the chains to shame and guilt, and it helps you just I think of a butterfly, you just like you said, becoming, and you're constantly growing in this
Yeah.
place.
Mhm. That's
Yeah.
true. That's true. I like that.
Yeah. Okay, so Dr. LaShawn, what does living on purpose look like for you now?
I say that one more time.
Yeah, what does living with purpose look like for you now?
You know, I for me, it's waking up and doing what I love to do. Waking up and saying yes to the assignment that is on my life.
Mm,
Living with purpose for me looks like alignment over hustle. I'm not just doing this, but I'm living in this alignment. It means I no longer move to impress, but
mhm,
I move to impact. That's the word that I look for. How am I going to be impactful in someone's life today? It's choosing assignments over applause. I don't need applause because I know that I'm doing what I'm called to do. Peace, I always say peace over pressure,
mhm,
authenticity over performance. Like all of those are important phrases for me when I'm waking up every day to say, how am I living with my purpose? I don't want to just look successful, Angelina. I want to
mhm,
be obedient to what God has called me to do. That's when I go to bed at night, what did I do to make sure that I did something to help someone on the way?
mhm,
Purpose shows up in my businesses that I own, purpose shows up in my book that I've written. It shows up in my coaching sessions or my planning sessions with my clients, the motherhood, even though my daughter is 28, there's still purpose that I'm speaking into her life as she's transitioning to whoever she's been called to be. And
mhm,
still, this piece of healing that I still have to do every day because I'm never going to be, like I said earlier, this perfect person. But there's
mhm,
always something that I have to make sure that I am dealing with so that I can be helpful and better for someone else. It's how I lead women, it's how I serve my communities, and it's how I walk boldly, in my truth. And living with purpose means just simply I wake up every day asking, God, who am I called to free today?
mhm,
Starting with myself.
mhm.
It's very important to me.
Oof. And that's wisdom right there, just coming through, coming
Yeah.
through.
Yeah.
That's beautiful, and I like that you're touching in on. I don't need outside or external things to affirm what I already know I'm called to
Yeah.
do. There's a confidence in walking in your calling. There's a confidence in walking in purpose. Like you no longer speak the accreditations and on all those things. You already know that this is what I'm meant to do. And I love it simply put, I'm asking God, who am I supposed to free today? Who is it? You lead me, you guide me, you open those doors. There's no pressure, there's no force behind it. It just all falls into your path. I love
Yeah.
that.
I love that.
Yeah. Dr. LaShawn, so let me ask you as we kind of come to the ends of our conversation, what and I'm going to ask you a question of legacy and impact. What would you want to be remembered for if today were your last day?
Oh, that's something I talk about all the time. I talk about that dash in the middle of the year when we were born, in the year that we are called to our heavenly homes. I want to be remembered as this woman who told the truth, right?
Mhm,
And
mhm,
helped others heal because of it. She transparently shared with the world everything that she encountered, everything that she went through, but not just what I built, but how I made people feel seen, how it made people feel heard, and whole. I want people to say, she didn't just survive, right? She helped me survive too. She shared wisdom. I heard her
mhm,
speak and she shared her story, and it just pushed me to the next level, whatever that might be. That I showed up with grace, that I led with strategy, and that I always love with condition. I like to say when I'm speaking on these platforms that I want to be remembered that I had all this pain, I had all these things that I went through, but I turned it into purpose. And I left a blueprint for other women who
mhm,
are ready to take that step to see
mhm,
so that they can move forward. And because at the end of the day, I don't want to just be known for, I'm Dr. LaShawn. I had all of these degrees. I did all that means nothing. I just want to be remembered for one word, and that is transformation.
Mm,
Yeah.
mm. Beautiful. Well, let's say my last question to
Yeah.
you, Dr. LaShawn, is if somebody is out there listening and they are still trying to figure out their purpose, what kind of truth can you unlock for that person today?
You know, every interview that I do, there's always, or speaking engagements, whatever it is, um, I always want someone to take away. Yes, you've heard my story. You've heard me sing, praises about going through this journey, how God
Mhm.
freed me, da 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 da, all of that, right? But the most important thing, if they don't remember anything else, is unlocking your purpose. Whoever's listening starts with telling the truth about who you are, what hurt you, what you really want, what could have been done differently. It's that simple. It requires stillness and self reflection to ask yourself, what breaks my heart? You need to be able to say, what breaks my heart? What brings me joy? What makes me happy? What do I do naturally to help others? Then start moving. Even if it's messy or you don't feel like you have all what you need, purpose is often revealed in motion. You got to get started doing something before it comes to full circle, like, oh my God, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. It doesn't come in your when you're waiting, when you're
Mm,
sitting there indulging in pain and feeling like you're never going to be able to move forward again. Surround yourself, like I said, with people who speak life into your gifts. They challenge you to grow. Get in environments that align with who you're becoming. You want to be this? Well, join this group, join this club, watch this
mm,
YouTube, follow this person, pray for clarity. Read your scriptures, write declarations from scriptures about who you're becoming.
mm,
Journal through the noise and be willing to evolve. I find scriptures all the time, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to turn that scripture. Job 10:12 is one of my favorite scriptures. I have all of these. I have life in favor. I increase in favor, financial favor, favor with influential people. I have this long 8.5 by 14. I've created declarations from Run Scripture. We got to do those things because no one's going
mm,
to encourage us but ourselves. But most of all, trust that your purpose is not something outside of you, it's already inside. You just got to
mm.
push it. You got to birth it. You got to do whatever you need to do. You
Yes.
just have
Yep.
to give yourself permission to open the door.
Absolutely. Oh, I love that. All right, Dr. LaShawn, maybe we have a listener out there that's like, you know what? I want to grab her book. I want to connect with her. How can they do that?
Sure, I would love to have anybody to connect with me and buy my book. My book is The Diva Herself, I Survived My Mess. It's my memoir, but it also parallels to how to get through the journeys of the things that you're going through. They can go to my website, which is drlashawndenisewit.com. That is my website to purchase my book, or of course on Amazon. They can book me for speaking engagements, workshops, coaching, whatever. They can follow me across social media platforms at the_global_strategist. I'm all over the place. I love partnering with schools, organizations, wherever. I'm always ready to come and be a blessing to those who trust my voice. And so I'm excited to have spent a few moments with you and your listeners.
Yes, thank you so much, Dr. LaShawn, for sharing your heart, your story, and your light with us today. Conversations like this remind us that purpose isn't about perfection, it's
Yes.
about showing up and growing through the things that we go through, knowing that every step matters. Here at the Good Morning Minute and through the Empower Her Steps movement, we believe every woman has a calling worth discovering and a voice worth using. So wherever you are today, friend, remember your purpose is powerful and you're not walking alone. Until next time, keep rising, keep trusting, keep walking boldly into the life God has designed for you. I'm Angelina Mojica, your life coach, sending you much love, much peace, many blessings.